Welcome to The Explainer. So, in finance, there's this new kind of power player emerging, the analyst who's also a huge social media star. Today, we're going to dig into how this new breed of influencer is totally changing the game of investing, for better and, well, maybe for worse.
Okay, to really get what's going on here, let's just start with a number. 4,200. That is how many exchange-traded funds, ETFs, are out there in the US alone. I mean, in a market that crowded, how do you even get noticed? It's almost impossible. And yet, in this just massive sea of products, a couple of new ETFs are pulling off something that's, well, pretty much unheard of.
They've managed to pull off what the pros call a rare double. And you gotta understand, this is a big deal. Usually, a fund might have great performance, but nobody puts money in it. Or it's the opposite, right? It rakes in tons of cash, but the returns are just meh. Doing both at the same time almost never happens. But these new funds, they're nailing both. So that leads to the big question, right? In a market with literally thousands of choices, who's behind these funds? Who are the masterminds pulling in all this cash and getting great returns?
Well, the answer isn't some old-school Wall Street firm. Nope, it's two incredibly well-known market analysts. And they're using a totally modern playbook to go straight to investors, cutting out the middleman completely.
Okay, so let's meet them. Tom Lee and Dan Ives. If you follow the markets at all, you've definitely heard these names. These guys are super charismatic, they're big on tech, and they've built these huge followings on social media. We're talking a combined audience of over 700,000 people. That's not just a following, that's a media megaphone. And you better believe they know how to use it. They're famous for these big, bold, audacious calls that are just perfect for a soundbite on TV. See, they're not just analysts crunching numbers, they're personalities, and they know exactly how to grab your attention. So what's their secret sauce? The playbook is actually pretty simple, but it's incredibly powerful. Step 1, build a super loyal following with a fire hose of daily research. Step 2, take all your biggest, best ideas and package them up into one simple product, an ETF. And then step 3, market that thing directly to all those followers, making it super easy, like one-click easy, for them to buy in. And the results? It's basically a direct-to-consumer model, but for finance. Their followers are turning into investors, and not just a few of them. We're talking billions of dollars pouring into these funds at an incredible speed. It's working. Okay, but all this success, it brings up a really thorny issue. It forces us to ask some tough questions about what role these guys are really playing in the market. And this is really the heart of it, right? Can you be both an analyst and a product salesman? I mean, your reputation as an analyst is built on being independent and objective. But if you're also selling a product based on your own research, well, that's where things get tricky. It's a huge potential conflict of interest. Think about it. When someone like Dan Ives goes on TV, he's there as a sell-side analyst. The whole idea, the expectation from everyone watching, is that what he's saying is his pure, unvarnished, objective opinion, not influenced by anything else. But that leads to a really tough what-if scenario. What happens if his independent research leads him to a negative conclusion about a stock that just happens to be a top holding in his own ETF? If he comes out and says, sell this stock, does he risk blowing up his own fund? Does he risk scaring away all those investors he worked so hard to get? It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Could their public recommendations be influenced, maybe even subconsciously, by the fact that they need their own ETF to do well? All of a sudden, their job to give you objective advice is fighting directly against their own personal self-interest. But look, let's be clear. This isn't just a story about Tom Lee and Dan Ives. Not at all. What we're seeing here is probably the start of a much, much bigger shift in the entire world of asset management. And you can see it happening already. This is not some one-off thing. We're seeing a whole wave of other big names jumping in. Folks like the economist Nouriel Roubini, Rick Rieder from BlackRock, they're all launching their own branded ETFs. That line between being an analyst and a salesman, it's getting really, really blurry. Now, don't get me wrong, just being famous isn't enough to guarantee success. But what Ives and Leany have absolutely proven is that having a powerful personal brand might just be the ultimate cheat code in this super crowded ETF market. They've shown that this direct-to-investor model, it definitely works. And that really leaves us with one last big question for you to think about. As this whole analyst-influencer thing gets bigger and bigger, investors are going to have to ask themselves something really important every single time they hit that buy button. Are you investing in the idea, or are you investing in the personality?